The Gulf Coast Growth Show is sponsored by Chevron Pasadena Refinery and is an extension of the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region, where our mission is to market and grow a vibrant regional economy. All right, guys. Hey, and welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm your host, Jason Lee, and my co-host, Zeke Smith.
So, Jason?
And his uncharacteristically not in pink. Hey,
flavor.
There you go. He's got his flavor. And we are joined by Miss Samantha Coker, the Chief Human Resources from one of our great sponsors, Apache Industrial. Samantha, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And by the time the show releases, it's going to be a little outdated, but we are here to celebrate International Women's Day. And this week has been a big week in the industry because it's really been Women in Construction Week. And, I think I've been to at least one or two different events this week, and every night there seems to be something going on to celebrate women in the industry. And that's going to be a big piece of our topic today, talking about the impact that women have had, as well as the importance of mental health and then really workforce development, right? You guys are specialists in the field, and so I'm excited to have us chatting about that today. But before we dive in, Samantha, you were sharing a little bit about your history, and I think it's important for people to understand where you come from and how you got into this, and now your role and what you do at Apache as the Chief Human Resources Officer. So give us a little background.
Sure. So I'll keep it short, but grew up in South Louisiana, and most of my family worked in this business for a long time. My dad was a leader in the industrial maintenance space. Uncles, aunts, cousins were pipe fitters, welders, safety, admin, all the way through. So growing up, that's what I was around. The biggest impact for me, and watching kind of how my dad worked as a leader was, this industry provides opportunities for people to make a really good living, and you don't have to have a formal education a lot of times. You have to be willing to work, and so we'd have folks, come by on nights and weekends and knock on the door and say, "Mr. Phil, can you help me out with a job?" And he'd tell them where to go, and you got to show up and be willing to pass a drug test and listen more than you talk. So a lot of people were given opportunities. So anyway, as I progressed through college and kind of tried to not be in this industry, it pulled me in from an HR perspective, because I appreciated what the industry provides to our communities and a lot of folks out there. So graduated from LSU in Southeastern with a degree in psychology, figured out how to apply that to business, got into recruiting and HR and loved it. And so 18 years later, here I am. Did a lot of different things with Jacobs and Worley in the international construction space, from recruiting to training, development, mergers, acquisitions, all that kind of stuff. And I had the opportunity about 2 years ago to come to Apache. I'm a big fan of our CEO, Stephen Hillier. He's a fantastic leader and appreciates all that the HR team brings, from workforce development to, employee engagement and all of the things that the HR team does. So I knew I had a great leader to work with. And it's been a lot of fun at Apache, a lot of work, but a lot of fun these last 2 years. So,
it's interesting to me, but when you hear from great organizations that are thriving and growing, that's when you really get to hear about the dynamic impact that HR has. It's usually the HR has a bad misnomer when you get called into HR's office, but a lot of times that's organizations that aren't wrapped into succession, development of people, talent, training, all of those things. So when you see a great organization, you also usually have a great HR team that's really doing the good stuff that comes along with HR. So we're going to dive into women in construction, right? So it's a big week. We've been celebrating it. You've obviously been in and around the industry for years. Mm-hmm. Give us your insight. Like, where have we come as an industry when it comes to women and their place in this, in construction and industrial? Just tell us a little bit about the background.
Yeah. So
what have you seen personally?
Looking at it, when I first started, I started working in the industry when I was 15, but professionally, I never looked at it as I'm a woman in a male-dominated world. It literally never occurred to me to kind of approach it that way. But as you start hearing of some things that still happen in the field, and
Mhm.
women were treated differently in some scenarios. It's like, okay, we really need to, take a look at this and make the workplace a good place for everyone, regardless of your gender, your cultural background, et cetera. So in the last 15 years, just by putting a spotlight on it, you know, we all have a place here. And by the way, we need as many workers in this business as we can get. So if we make the workplace more inclusive and better for everyone, we're better as an industry and as a profession. So that's been the shift that we've seen, especially over the last 10, 15 years is, we recognize we have a talent problem. So let's make this a great place for people to come to work and thrive and grow. So that's the approach we took in, my previous role, and certainly that we take at Apache is you need to be willing to show up and go to work, and we will give you every opportunity to succeed and grow and develop into whoever you want to be. And we've seen those success stories. We've shared quite a few of them this week on LinkedIn, and I'm super proud of that. Everything from a 2-year apprentice who was, working in fast food and didn't see a future. She came to us and is thriving as a single mom working in
Wow.
the industry. That is really cool.
That is awesome.
She has every opportunity to grow and succeed. So that's amazing. We have a safety professional who started, in the field as a helper. We have folks on our team that came out of the field and
Wow.
are growing and progressing. So it's
So from the field to HR.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
a helper raised her hand, wanted to work in the hiring center and has just kind of ticked off one box after another by saying yes to opportunities to grow and learn. So for me, that's what it's all about is as a leader, providing that space and opening a door for somebody to step in and work hard and grow and, be part of a winning team. So
Fantastic. That's unbelievable. So Zeke, what do you got?
Yeah, well, I mean, full disclosure, Samantha is my boss.
Right.
The best boss ever since my mom. So shout out to moms. So we talked about inclusive workforce, and I think I've shared this before, and obviously we've had Stephen on the show as well last season. That mental health or total human health was a huge topic for me even prior to coming to Apache.
Right.
But it just seemed a bit fortuitous that when Samantha and I sat down at a little coffee shop and started talking, and that was on her mind, and they were already down the path at Apache. So it was sort of too good to be true, and like, what the heck's going on here? This is kind of meant to be. So that was an exciting piece. So I didn't have to be some soul evangelist. Samantha was already in, and she was like, "Yep, I need more people, like you, and let's go. Let's hold hands and get this thing moving." So, what I guess I want to have you share is kind of where that came from, why you brought it to Apache, why do you feel it's important, and where do you think we are in the journey at Apache with our total human health or mental health awareness and resiliency training? Where do you think we are?
So where the passion comes from my end, again, the whole conversation around mental health in the workplace started, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago for me. And at first it was like, oh, okay, we're going there. And as you get more familiar with the topic, I have a master's degree in psychology. So obviously I have an appreciation for it, but even personally, I wrote my thesis on the stigma around mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But when I had personal struggles, I didn't want to share that because I was scared of what people would think. And then I thought about it, I'm like, I literally researched and wrote about this. So obviously this is a problem, and the more that we talk about it and share, the better we all are. So Jacobs at the time was really on the forefront of talking about it and educating our workforce on it. So I was a part of that whole conversation of, this is what mental health is, and this is why it matters, because you don't turn off who you are when you walk in the door at work. So the better equipped we are to talk about mental health, to talk about, we're not focused because we're distracted with this stressor or that stressor. The more we support each other, the more engaged we are, more productive and safe we are ultimately as a workforce. So having that conversation was really helpful. fast forward to joining Apache, Stephen is obviously a big advocate of mental health, and he shared some of his personal stories. Having Zeke on board to, help that conversation, but we're taking it to the next level. We know life is stressful. Everyone has, a lot of responsibilities and things to deal with. So how can we peel away a little bit of that stress for all of our team members? What can we do? What resources can we provide? Just, again, simply having that conversation gives people a little bit of peace in knowing that they're not alone. The people they work with actually care and are willing to help them has gone a long way. So as far as where we are in our journey at Apache, we partnered with a company called Headversity that helps us engage with our folks in the field who are often very difficult to reach just because they're out there building a scaffold or insulating or doing whatever they're doing.
Okay.
So we put an app with some helpful, training and resources in the palm of their hand. It's available to their family members, all of their
This is
family
an app
members.
that they have on their phone, every
Mhm.
employee.
Desktop
Every
or
employee-
desktop or mobile.
Or mobile.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
Yep, every employee has it.
And it's Headversity.
Headversity.
We got it.
Get ahead of adversity.
There you go.
There you go. So they have it in the palm of their hands. We've had different people from all different roles come in and say, I was going into a meeting, I was super nervous, so I went on my app and I used a focus exercise, and it really helped
Wow.
to, the crap's hitting the fan in my family, and I, reached out to this resource, and they really helped us with coping mechanisms or what have you. So we've had some success stories because, again, having that sense of community for our team members is really important. They don't feel alone. They know, we all struggle with something at some point. So having the conversations and having the benefits there to help has gone a long way.
Yeah, and you guys are upwards of 1,200 employees?
We're at 4,000.
God. Okay. So way off.
Yeah, you were close, buddy.
Yeah, close.
Yeah.
It's early. So 4,000 employees. So when you think about the size of that, and I would imagine of a percentage of those 4,000, what is it, 90%, if not 95 probably are in the field?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's a massive amount of people that you're trying to infiltrate. And I know one of the things that I've always been blown away by is the leaders that can penetrate down to the field level, because there's such a gap between corporate
Yeah.
and the guy that's, miles away on some job site that probably never even, they maybe see a video of you sometime or something like that. They don't
Right.
know who HR is. And so that's amazing that you guys took the initiative there to go out and step out and do that.
Yeah, we pushed it. So, and Samantha often makes fun of me. She's like, "Oh, he's being humble. Let me go and say something." So I'm going to flip it on her head. So and go further of her leadership is that we talk about inclusive workforce, and we often talk about, hey, it's a downstream issue. Here's some resources. Here's a basket of things to go help you. So she has really pushed us, and not just us, the industry itself. I think push us in your face a little bit and say, hey, we're not just going to hand you this basket of things. We're going to train you how to use the basket, right? We've talked about this before where we train our industry, whether it's petrochem or construction, how to deal with every crisis there is.
Right.
Every bell and whistle that goes off on a plant site, we know exactly where to go, what to do, who to call, And so why aren't we doing the same thing for folks with their personal crisis, right? Because they're all dealing with that. She mentioned it, stress, distraction. You're unsafe.
Right.
Inherently less safe if those things are going on. So how can Apache, the industry, do a better job of training those folks how to at least not treat or diagnose, but deal, right? Be a little bit more resilient with the things that are going on in their life that may not be right in front of them, because we do scaffolding. And by the way, scaffolding is one of the most, if not the most dangerous thing folks can do on a job site. They're at heights.
Right.
So if you're not focused what you're doing, it's dangerous. And by the way, if you're not abiding by safety protocols, you will get kicked off those job sites very quickly.
Right.
Because it's very, very safe, pro-safe environment. So I think that's what I'm most proud of our organization, but obviously Samantha in leading the way is like, say, hey, yeah, we're not just going to say, hey, just go over here, call these folks and come back to us when you're ready. We're going to get this out to you, bring it to where you are, and help you and help train you on how to deal with these things. At least, even if it's just going into a meeting or going on a podcast and you're nervous, hey, do a little exercise or watch a video or take it to your kid. We've had folks come to us and say, my kids are struggling. I showed them this video and they were like, this is great. I make fun of one of our safety guys who I love, who said, I started meditating and it's helping so much. And I'm like, this is amazing. Shout out to Tony.
I love it.
And
That's
I mean,
amazing.
that's just, so, those kind of stories are what make us like keep going, right? Keep driving the message. The awareness was the first piece. Now it's awareness to action. So what are we doing now to get it to folks? And look, 4,000 employees, we recognize you're not going to touch all 4,000 at a time. But I think our lovely safety leader at Apache said, hey, listen, I guess if it's, you affect one person, that worth it in spades, change somebody's life. So.
Yeah.
And the approach we've taken, so yes, it's in the palm of everyone's hand, but we also send it out as a toolbox talk to our field leaders. So they're talking about physical safety most of the time, which of course is important. But again, if you're not focused, if you're, feeling a little out of it, or something like that, you need to have those conversations as well. So,
I mean, I can't think of the multitude of times I've had a bad day. There's something going on in my family. I've been at work.
Sleep.
I haven't slept right.
Right.
And I've struggled through the day. Like I've been like, man, this was brutal. I can't imagine doing it in an environment at 400 feet up in the air
5-6
with
days
tools
a
and all
week.
kinds of things, 5-6 days a week.
Sometimes 13 days a week.
I mean, that's crazy to think about. Yeah.
Yes.
13 days straight. Yeah.
So we know we're not going to touch all 4,000 people every month, which is fine, right? You may be going through a season of life, which is great. Enjoy it.
You may be 8 out of 10 all the time.
Yeah. I'll leave that.
Well, so back to the women's thing and really like workforce as a whole, right? I think what I hear is the initiative to go out and really support diversity and kind of advancing the way that we see the industry, right? It's not, I mean, because I think even growing up in the region, I remember thinking, okay, it's just work boots and tough dudes, and I mean, even if you go back, I remember one of my favorite movies, Urban Cowboy. Right? Like that's just that
one of the best movies.
Yeah, it personifies this region, right? You're like, you're just these dirty, gritty dudes, and that's kind of what you think. And so you have a hard time thinking of that guy like showing up and coming out of the work field or out of the field and saying like, oh man, I'm on this meditation thing and it's going like, it's just hard to think of, or hard time thinking of a woman stepping into that space. And so we've really just come like we're like light years ahead of where we were.
Absolutely.
Right. And so what do you think has been the biggest shift? Right. So what triggered this dynamic to where now people are more open to talk about it, more women, we've got Logic, we've got women in the industry, or Logic with ABC, the Women Alliance over here. So it's really just become a big talking point. What do you think was the tilting point to where mental awareness, diversity, inclusion, all these things kind of stepped into a place? When did you start seeing it?
Well, like I said, it was probably 7-8 years ago that it really ramped up, and it goes back to, okay, we are entering crisis mode,
right?
For skilled trades and people wanting to get into this industry in particular. So we need to make it as inviting and attractive as we can. So it's not super sexy all the time to work outside in 100-degree heat in FRs head to toe.
Yep.
So how are we going to make that, more appealing, and what can we do? And that's telling that story of, look, if that's what you want to do for the rest of your career, you can absolutely do that, or you can use it as a stepping stone. And here are all the benefits that we're going to provide to you, including, an inclusive workforce and mental health education and all of that. So that to me was the pivotal point for our industry specifically, was we know we need to make it as attractive as we can, and providing all of these additional resources in addition to, earning a very competitive living and education and all of that, really set us on that path. Society in general, we started talking more about diversity and inclusion, which is an important topic. But for our industry, I think it was really that need to get as many people in as we can.
Fantastic. And then real quick, I want to like kind of a plug for organizations like this and the ABC, because we mentioned a few of the different groups that they have centered on women and construction, but you guys are a big organization. So as a large organization, it's easier to have resources. I guess, not everybody has an HR department, right? Not everybody has those resources. So my encouragement, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, that's not me. I have to go in, I'm HR and I'm also, sales and, because there's those guys that are doing that. They're running $10, $15 million businesses where they have 14 hats on. I would encourage you to leverage these organizations that are there to support your industry, because they are getting more plugged in and getting more connected to providing resources that you can use to help bring in, whether it be training or other tools, and or places where maybe the women in your industry can get plugged into other women who are doing the same things and maybe facing the same struggles. And it really is a community approach.
Yeah.
So just a kind of a plug for that, because I think it's another value add to why people become members of things.
No, it's a great point. And quickly to add, the size of the organization doesn't necessarily equal the sophistication of it. And no offense to,
understood.
Jacobs and Worley, very old company, sophisticated, forward thinking. Apache was kind of a wild, wild west. Let's go and grow and bust it. The old, urban cowboy style dudes. And so just because it's a large organization doesn't mean we've been doing things like this for years.
Right.
I would give a lot of credit to Stephen and obviously Samantha and the other executives that came over that have helped drive some of that. And put some process in place without getting in the way of our horses and letting them run. So don't get intimidated by organizations that you think are big and sophisticated, because they may not be. They may be going through the same journey you are as a 100-person, $15 million company, or going, have just had that struggle and failed and fall on our face and then succeeded. So I think it's a great point, but just make sure that you use all the resources around you and not just say, oh, that's a big company, they're doing things. We're not there yet. Let's figure it out together, because oftentimes with Samantha's experience, what she's been through in the industry, she's probably seen something similar that you're going through, if not, actually experienced it. So
I love it. And then, so as we get ready to wrap up, I'd be remiss not to give you a minute to share how you've been able to be successful as a female in the industry, growing. You've worked your way through multiple places, and then here you are running a 4,000 person company and as the head of HR. That's unbelievable. So it's a great testament to what you've been able to do. And he's mentioned multiple times the success you've had as a leader. So tell us a little bit about what's led to your success.
So I've listened to a couple episodes, and ironically, my notes were the same. Everyone talks about surrounding yourself with great people. So that's the secret, right? Make sure you're not the smartest person in the room. For me, just the way I was brought up, and it's translated to my professional life, I surround myself with people that will tell me the truth, even when that hurts. Sitting across the table from one of them now, that brutal feedback sometimes you need, but will also love on you when that's appropriate too. So yeah, great people that lift you up and encourage you to be better on a daily basis is absolutely key. And then having that learning mindset. I don't know everything. I'm a work in progress. Just trying to get better every single day. So for our team, our HR team at Apache, we make it a practice to, stop every once in a while and look back on all the progress we've made, dust off the bumps and bruises and get ready for whatever's next. And you just kind of keep raising the bar. And next thing you know, you've accomplished a whole lot as a team. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you said it earlier. You said one of the women that you mentioned earlier said yes.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's the key, right? It's yes to opportunity, yes
Absolutely.
to growth, and not being afraid to step into things that are uncomfortable. Right.
100%.
I'm imagining the guy who came from the field into HR. That's a dynamic shift.
Yeah.
From in the field to now behind the desk and trying to communicate and do things in a completely different way, or somebody who was working in a fast food restaurant that's now it's just mind blowing to me. But that's because they said yes.
Exactly.
They didn't accept that they were bound for whatever position they had in life. They decided, no, I'm going to go down a different track with an organization that's going to support me and give me opportunity. I said yes.
Yes.
And that really, I think, embodies our what this region provides.
100%.
There's so many, I wish more kids listen to the show, because if they were in high school and hearing it, they'd be like, man, I really ought to investigate that region. I know there's kids
like,
right now.
Dads are really immature.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking they're like, I bet he was an awesome dad. They don't do anything serious.
That's right.
So, yeah. But yeah, so the show, kind of the whole mission behind companies like yours and this region is to give people opportunity. I mean, that's really what it's about. And so, I think you've done a great job showing that example and celebrating women today. Couldn't have had a better guest.
Thank you.
Zeke, anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, give us your gratitude to the family. I mean, I know this, so it's like kind of spoiler alert. I know, how much her family means to her, but give your shout out. I mean, you mentioned your dad. We'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to brother. He's in the industry and always at things. He's a fan of the show.
Okay,
time.
fantastic, awesome.
Well,
He
that's
thinks we're famous. He says we're famous.
Oh, cool.
Well,
so.
we are. You are. I'm just here. So
You're famous now.
There you go.
Yeah,
So-
congratulations.
All
very
14
quick,
listeners.
very quick, kind of, life is funny story. So yes, my dad grew up in the industry, and my brother is VP of operations for another company in this area. He moved here as well. So anyway, when I was growing up, my dad's very traditional. So I'm a girl. I'm supposed to be a teacher or a nurse, which are fantastic professions. Neither one would be a fit for me
Right.
at all. So when I was like, no, I think I'm going to do something different, and got in this business. And he's like, I don't know about that. So fast forward, 20 years, and my brother and I have both been successful in the industry in our own rights. All those years later. So now he's super proud. And,
That's so
and
cool.
okay with me not being a nurse or a teacher.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Now,
So-
are they still in Louisiana?
My brother's here. My dad,
Dad's
yeah,
okay.
in Louisiana.
Fantastic. Cool.
And thankfully my sister became a teacher, so he had one in the book. But anyway, yes, shout out to my family. My husband and my daughter are just biggest fans
Awesome.
ever of anything I do and support all of it. And yeah, it's fun having family in the industry, and you can, talk a little shop and pat each other on the back when you need it.
So if you're her husband or daughter, just make sure you share this with as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Like and follow our page.
Let's go, Ruby. Send it to your friends.
There
Let's
you
go.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, we appreciate it. You've been great today. And as we get ready to wrap up the episode, just want to thank you again for your contribution. Thank you for being such a great partner of one of my closest friends and the guest on the show. He loves where he goes to work every day, and it brings me a lot of joy to get to see him in an environment that brings him joy. So
Thank you
for
so
that.
much. It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. And so thank you to our audience for always tuning in and staying plugged in and connected to the show. We've great talking to Samantha Coker, Chief Human Resources Officer of Apache Industrial. It's been great today, Zeke. Great having you, Rocky.
Right.
And we will see you guys next week. Again, make sure you stay tuned to us. You can reach out to Zeke and myself on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to touch base with us. Give us feedback. Maybe if you have guest recommendations, we'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to go to the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region website and subscribe to our channels. And let's pay it forward by sharing the good news of what's happening in our region by passing this episode to somebody you know.